Or intro this.
Welcome back to I'm probably not going to say much, and everyone else is going to talk.
Said after this podcast he wants to do a shoot interview. So I don't know what the hell he's going to shoot on, but Miguel,
the floor is yours.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm glad you didn't have a formal introduction because this whole thing is not going to be formal at all. I don't know. I think before I give my 2 cents, is there anything that you want to get off your chest, Griff, when it comes to wrestling or whatever you see on your timeline on Twitter or anything like that?
You know what? The only thing I like to get off my chest is the people always going, like, when I know you guys all watch AEW, but like when AEW like flexes in the ratings, not you guys, the fans, but when like you see like people go out of the way to post like, oh, one's doing better than the other. Like the only thing I want to say is like, look, everyone's gonna watch what they want. I know I'm not the biggest, like I don't like my interest in wrestling is kind of not peaked, but kind of like comes and goes, obviously with everything going on. But when people try to say like, yeah, one thing's better than the other, it's like just enjoy both for what they are. Both have their merits. Obviously, one has, as a company, has more pros and cons, and the more that you find out about AEW, you realize, yeah, if you're comparing current day Tony to Vince, Tony's obviously a lot better human being. Meanwhile, one basically bans people from doing Cameo on Twitch, which I think stupid, so they can't even make their own money. But in all, it's just, I don't know why it has to be such a war aspect. I feel like, look, if they're going after each other, but I think AEW has just started to, you know what, be another outlet for wrestling, and that's how I view it. It's another promotion, and once this is all done and fans are back in the shows, I'd like to go see a show, whether they come to Toronto or even maybe All Out 2021. Who knows?
I love when Justin uses that meme of Cody and the Elite laughing.
Yeah,
it gets
last week that was
every time
for that.
You know what's nonsense? I got to hear about. Like I read, like, oh, NXT is gonna beat AEW, WWE is killing AEW. So anytime AEW beats NXT, especially for the first like month of them going head to head, I just had to laugh. It's like what? Where's this prophecy? Where's your hero now? You know what I mean?
And when you know what's one thing that bugs me is when Jericho tweeted the demo god when he started that gimmick, and everybody just lost their shit. Like, how dare he? Like, oh, so you won in the demographics. It doesn't matter. Who has more money? It's like, dude, like, like, I don't know, man. Like, a part of me is like, some of these fans they're just kids. They don't know what ratings mean. They don't know what demographics mean. They weren't alive for the Attitude Era. When literally ratings and demographics meant everything between WCW and WWE. But then, like, I scrolled through some of the replies, and I guess this is my own fault because, sometimes I do go out of my way to just see if there's that one person that maybe sounds like they're older, but they're just completely stupid. And I'll read the replies, and I'm just like, okay, like, and what's your point? Like, I don't know. It every bit of positivity that AEW gets, somebody has to go and make it all about, well, if it's positive about AEW, it must be a negative or a jab at WWE. Like, Jericho claiming he's a demo god does not mean fuck WWE and I hope everybody loses their jobs. But that's how people take it.
It's funny because Alvarez tweets one number and that's it. And if you just look at that thread of AEW with that one number, it's like everyone's flipping out.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
all the time.
Like, oh my God, you work for AEW, you're such a bias. And he didn't even do anything. He just tweets a number.
Meltzer has been on the AEW payroll since they started, according to a lot of people on Twitter, just because, whenever he sings their praises, whenever they do a good job. If WWE were to get their shit together, they not only would have better ratings, but they'd have praises from Meltzer, who, by the way, if he's such a AEW mark and he only cares about matches that happen in Japan, I don't know why people still value his opinion that much. Because to me, if I'm looking at someone and I know they're biased, I know he will not give a match that I care about from WWE a proper review because it didn't happen in the fucking Tokyo Dome. So then why does his opinion matter? If his opinion clearly has What?
Last week, he said AEW had one of its worst shows, and no one said anything.
No, because they wait to, whenever he says something good, then... And you know what's funny is that he holds AEW to such a high regard. So he's actually harder on them than WWE. The reason it doesn't come off that way is because WWE is so bad that it's easy for him to trash on them because they give him a lot of reasons to do that. But when AEW is bad or he doesn't like something, it doesn't come across that way just because AEW has only been a company for like a year now. When just give it time, anybody that doesn't believe me is just WWE have been around for a long time, so they have what's called a negative track record. That means all those years that they've done, things that suck is coming to bite them in the ass because now people have them on a shorter leash. I know we're talking about the Blackhawks coach in the other podcast, and that's exactly what it is now. It's just AEW has a longer leash because they're still a new company, because they haven't had years of mistakes. When we talk about WWE and what years you like and what years you don't like, the years you don't like, there's so much crap in those years. It's not like, well, like for me, a year that I don't really necessarily like is 2007. And in 2007, it's not like, well, Mania was good. There was only a couple pay-per-views that sucked. No, there's a lot of things that sucked in 2007. That's why, that just an example. Nowadays, if WWE does something, you associate it to the past because they have not learned from their past. But, it always comes down to Meltzer being an AEW fanboy.
And it all depends on what you grew up with and what you accompanied with becoming a wrestling fan. Because Miguel over here talking about 2007 being really bad and Mania being whatever, and some of the shows being bad. Me, WrestleMania 23, before obviously recent events with one of the matches, that was my favorite wrestling show ever. That was awesome. No Mercy 2007, which I know Brandon always laughs at when I say. One of my favorite shows of all time. I can say what happens on that show backwards and forwards. That was the year that I really, really got into wrestling. And to me, it's a big deal. Everyone else, it's a bad year. And it all depends on when you grow up. So the people that are in AEW now, those are the people that I want to watch and I've watched grow up on the indies. And the people that, the other half of those people are in NXT, and I feel like I already got enough of, and they're used in a way that I don't care to watch. So if you don't want to watch something, then just watch something else. It's not that hard.
Yep.
Griff, what are you watching on Wednesday?
This coming Wednesday night.
No, what do you usually watch Wednesday? NXT, right?
Well, no. If I were to pick one, I pick AEW just because it's on TSN. We don't. If I want to watch, I don't want to have to find some stream and then have it freeze ever so often, because that's what's happening the few times I tried to watch NXT on my laptop. So if I were to pick one, I don't go for AEW because obviously they have the television rights up here, because for some reason Sportsnet likes to air NXT an hour condensed version prior to SmackDown. So it's why do I have to wait and to go out of my way to do that when I can just scroll through my timeline and find out? But as for this week, Wednesday, I don't know what I'll be watching. But yeah, if I were to pick one over the other, I'll pick AEW, because even too, it's the new kid on the block. Where you guys both nailed perfect facts on that, how Miguel said, yeah, they have a longer leash right now because, hey, they're the new kids. So if they do something to mess up, it's okay, they'll learn from their mistakes, which it seems like they do. Because when you trust guys like Cody and the Young Bucks to run it, they don't. No, it's not just some random guys running a show. No, they've grown up in the industry and they know exactly what they're doing. Meanwhile, with NXT, for as good as they are, it's that eventually these stars may not be something, because the track record of NXT to main roster, let's be honest, is not that good. A lot of the guys who've been called up are not with the company anymore, which is a very embarrassing fact. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Just that, that kind of ruins it. But then also to the whole, how they'll push one guy, or they'll say, oh, hey, this guy's getting this, and then all of a sudden it just gets released back. Meanwhile, with AEW, I can feel they're making stars. The only thing I would have to say with AEW, I don't understand is why, because I don't watch them often, so don't criticize me if you're not there or whatnot. But why is Jericho still called Le Champion, even though he doesn't? I guess it's just a gimmick thing or whatever. But even too, I'm just trying to think of all these different things with. Oh, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, and back to Mike's point, and hey, also too, for those of you who are new to me, I do this a lot where I ramble or I just go off on different things. Ask Matt or Alex, they will tell you every single time I've done it. But Mike's right though. Like 2007 for me too. Like WrestleMania 23 was the first WrestleMania I watched live, and yeah, Batista Taker was great. Cena Michaels was great at the time. But you go back and you watch it, or even you ask someone like Miguel, for them 2007 is not the year. So it all depends. Like growing up in the industry, not only for talent but for fans too, is two totally different perspectives. Because obviously, like when I grew up or Mike grew up, as opposed to when Justin Miguel grew up, are two totally different things.
Another thing that I would add to AEW, learning from mistakes that they make is that working for that company is completely different from working for WWE in the sense that the AEW and management, more specifically, is more open to feedback from the wrestlers. What works, what doesn't work, how are they gauging the audience, through Twitter, whatever it is, like what fans want to see. And a guy that has a lot of influence in that company used to work for WWE. Like he knows, what things can just trigger a morale in the locker room. What is something, just he knows things that you should not do because he's been in the company that made mistakes that he clearly did not like. It's like the best analogy that I can give you is, and I don't know if you've ever watched The Office, Griff, but to me, working for AEW is like working for Michael Scott, and working for Vince and WWE is like working for Robert California. One guy is just going to be, it's my way or the highway. This is how things are going to go. You got to, if you don't like it, then you got to learn to love it, in the words of Ric Flair. And in AEW, you got like a Michael Scott where he's open to feedback. He's more of like one of the guys as opposed to, well, I'm Mr. High and Mighty, the CEO. Like it's a completely different ball game, and I haven't kept up with what happened with the whole WWE trying to cockblock people on making a living on or making some money on Cameo or Twitch or whatever. I don't know what's going on with that, and if they are gonna ease up on that. But initially, when I heard that, I was like, this is just another example of why. Like you imagine if all these wrestlers that were on Twitch or Cameo, if they were on the what's that app called that just fucking flopped that they would promote so much back in Tout, thank you. If Tout were to take off, and it would be at least a player in social media, it'd be an app that people would care about and download, then they would not care, because if the wrestlers were on there and it's on something they created, something that they can say, yeah, they're on our platform, yeah, they would endorse it. But because they're out there trying to make a name for themselves by themselves and not behind the machine, and that's what aggravates them. I don't buy this whole, well, we just want to stop them from talking about the business. If they are that smart or they value their job at all, they will not say something stupid. Because I know that there's examples where people ask, I think Adam Cole or somebody, like, why haven't you been on TV or whatever? And they'll say something where it's open for interpretation for the dirt sheets to make it into something that's not. They'll say something like, well, you got to ask them, not me. Or like, to me, that's not detrimental. Detrimental is them saying, well, I don't know. You got to ask Vince McMahon. Why is he voting? Why is he a big Trump supporter? Why is the Be a Star campaign a 1-year wonder? Why didn't they bring that back? Why are we not doing the Susan G. Komen thing? It's like, that's what things that I would be concerned about. Adam Cole playing video games, answering questions about his tenure in PWG and ROH and New Japan, like that's nothing that you should be concerned about.
It makes them real people. Like obviously there's, like the people that were on the independents and whatnot, like to me at least, there'll always be, those indie guys just in WWE, but it makes them real people. With AEW, they have that transparency where it's like when we're on TV, like we're playing this character, but when we, leave the TV screen with like being the elite and just with like, Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, like it makes them like it puts like a story behind like the character. Whereas WWE is like, no. Like, we don't want you to do anything. We want you to just be the character on TV, and that's it. Like, you can't have a life. Company. Yeah.
Don't do anything for yourself. Like
Yeah.
Mickey James tried to put out a country music album, and they're like, well, is it going to be under our watch? Are we going to get a cut of it? No? Okay, then you can't do it. It's like,
Yeah.
like how long are they going to keep doing that before? Like, I wish that a big name would just be like, well, I'm doing it. If you got to terminate me, if we got to go to court, like I wish somebody, and I don't blame anybody for not doing it, because I think, especially now of all times, not everybody's financially stable to do what Randy Orton does. Like Randy Orton gives no fucks because he's financially stable, and at the end of the day, what's Vince gonna do? Release him? Even if he has a 90-day complete clause, Randy would have no problem taking those 90 days off to heal his body at the worst, just healing your body, and then signing with anybody else that's gonna want him. I wish somebody
AEW would pick him up like tomorrow.
But
he's not gonna do that. But I wish that someone would put their foot down and be like, "Nah, dude, like, no, we got to stop you here because this is 2020. This is not 1994. Like, you're not the end all be all of wrestling. We can go somewhere else if we really want to. If you want to terminate me and then sue me to give you some of the money back, fine. I'll just get it back, and through AEW or somebody else. But on the side, at least I'll know I have my other ventures that I can do."
Okay, so here's the thing with that, and I don't think that they thought about this, and they're just lying about the reason. But everyone assumes that if like a guy like Randy Orton just continues to do Twitch after or whatever he does, I think he does Twitch. If he continues to do,
he has his own clothing brand now.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's I think it's called Sliver or something like that.
I'll have to check that out. But if they if one of the wrestlers continues to do that and they become popular, I think WWE should be less worried about what they're going to say on those platforms, and they should be more worried about those people saying, you know what, fine, like I don't want to be a wrestler anymore. Like I don't want to do that for you anymore. I don't want to be a wrestler for your company anymore. I want to go be a Twitch streamer. I'm gonna go make my own clothing line. Like if someone like Paige, like she's got a huge following, obviously coming from WWE, transfer over to Twitch, and she can leave tomorrow from WWE, which I don't know, like what her contract is, but she could leave tomorrow, be a full-time Twitch streamer, and make a great living, have a great life. She doesn't have to answer to anybody, and that's what they should be more afraid of. So there's these guys like Randy Orton or whoever, like if they get released, like WWE is going to be like, oh well, now you're going to go to AEW. Like they should be more worried about them going to go off on their own and do social media and in different like content creation versus going to another wrestling company.
Like in 2011, WWE is doing nothing at all with Zack Ryder, and the guy made a whole YouTube series, and people that gave no shits about him were then like subscribing, and they were anxiously waiting for his next video to be uploaded.
Buying his shirts.
Yeah, and like I think when he came out with that basic shirt with his face on it, he was tweeting that if you buy it and you send him proof that you bought it, he would like mail you an autograph or something like that.
Yep.
Like that's the stuff that like he's not a big star, but that's how you get fans. That's how you get a guy that
become
probably
a big star.
Yeah, and then like if somebody that didn't really want to watch Raw, but now they're like, okay, well Zack Ryder's on Raw, I'll watch it. And then they watch their Zack Ryder match, and then they see something else, and they're like, maybe I'll stick around and see what else is here. It's like, but they don't look at that. They don't care about that. They don't care about any of the money any of us in this call give them. All they care about is whatever Fox and whatever network gives them. And if there's a sex scandal, or I don't even know if they care about that, because apparently they condone Velveteen Dream talking to minors inappropriately and just allowing him to come back like nothing ever happened. And somehow fucking Lars Sullivan is still employed. I don't know. I really don't know where their morals at or where they stand. But if it wasn't for Kevin Owens, they still wouldn't even be requiring people to wear masks.
Well, I don't want to gloss over those couple things you mentioned, because those are like heavier topics than I'm about to mention. But like,
what, that he's a pedophile?
Oh no, like we can go into those if we want to. But the thing, like, I was going to go down a different path and say, like, I don't even know if WWE knows what they're doing, because, it came out that Vince said, hey, you can't do Twitch and whatnot. But then, like, I feel like the day after, Stephanie McMahon said, like, it's good to grow the personal brands outside of WWE. So it's like, well, what do we want? Like, what do you want? Do you want them off of Twitch, or do you want them to grow their brands? Because you can't have both. Like, so I don't even know if the insides. Like, I have so much faith right now in Triple H and Stephanie that I feel like I don't even know. Like, it's weird because why don't they just say something to Vince? But then they're like, maybe they don't want to. But then again, like you can obviously see a disconnect between the two sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree.
It's crazy.
No, I agree with both you guys on your points. And also, one thing I want to say about AEW quickly is that I feel like there's certain wrestlers when you always hear a story, oh, this person says why they went to AEW over WWE. Like 3 wrestlers I can think of off the top of my head, actually 4, where it was you not only be happier, but I feel like it better fits their style. Are guys like Santana Ortiz, Brian Cage, who, oh, by the way, Santana Ortiz will always be LAX to me. Those guys, and even to Eddie Kingston, like there's just certain people where they fit, like their style of wrestling fits AEW better. Meanwhile, with WWE, like for as much as I like them, it's Miguel's right. There's just some morals where it's like they're that bad ex-girlfriend that, and I've never had this experience personally, that you always hear about the guy who like has a girlfriend like who either cheats on him or treats him like shit, and then he like always like says, oh, I'm gonna break up with her, but then he always ends up finding his way back to her. That's what I feel like my relationship as a WWE fan is, and a lot of people's too, where it's like they'll reel you back in with these great moments, and then like a week later, it's like, why the fuck am I watching this?
Yeah, they don't deserve anyone's loyalty yet.
Imagine Lucha Bros was in the Lucha House Party.
Those are another team where that's another thing with AEW.
And people like, oh, well, NXT is like, okay, but even NXT, Matt Riddle got called up. What has he done? What's he done on SmackDown? Nothing.
I don't watch it.
He beat AJ Styles. Okay, what does that mean? What are they gonna do after that? What are they gonna build off that? No, nothing. Like even like if a guy getting called up from NXT, it means so much less than it did 5 years ago. That's a huge problem because that's all like one of the biggest few things that people would hang on. Well, just wait till they move him up. Wait till they get him called up. And I mean, I'm not really gonna go into Keith Lee and whatnot because I think there's still a lot more to be seen there, and he just got called up. But Real's been there for a few weeks now. They've had time to do something with him, and I think he wasn't he feuding with Corbin?
Yeah, he was.
Like, oh my god! But whatever, that's whatever. It's
so
yeah.
That was our
just all. I just want to say the last thing I'll say is just for those of you that get really upset when someone boasts about AEW beating NXT or whatever in the ratings, just think, is what has WWE done for you recently? Not but when you were 8 years old, not when Stone Cold was the WWE champion and selling Austin 316 shirts. What has WWE done for you recently that makes them worthy of you defending themselves, of you defending them? Why should you put your heart out there for them on social media? Like, just ask yourself that. And if it really takes you longer than 10 seconds, then there's your answer. You probably shouldn't be defending them that much.
And that's a good place to stop. That's took the words right out of my mouth. And Miguel, Griff, thanks for coming on. And lastly, I just want to say props to Miguel that that comparison between The Office and WWE and AEW with Michael Scott and Robert California. Spot on. Never thought of it that way. And so that's it. Thanks for listening.
One more thing I just want to add quickly, and it's not me plugging, but Miguel, to answer the question earlier, I haven't watched The Office since it like kind of took off as this cult phenomenon, but like I watched it like back in the day, like when it was on TV, like I think it was like mid 2000s. So yeah, like I watched it like when I was younger and as a kid, but I haven't really watched it since it came back. That's all. That's the last point I wanted to get in.
Check it out. You'll enjoy it. And Justin, just how Brian loves Dua Lipa.
Shout out to The Office. Go watch The Office.
Cold Wall was his original Bay.
Actually, Demi Lovato was the original, but okay, we'll go with that. All right, we're out of here.
Goodbye.